The hero that everyone admires is secretly an evil sociopath, and all the good they do is just a cover for their sinister ulterior motives. This is a trope that has gained some popularity over the years, and when these heroes are unstoppable supes like Homelander and Omni-Man, it can make for some very terrifying TV, but the good kind of terrifying, the kind you can't tear your eyes away from. After over a decade of well-received MCU and DCEU movies, shows like Invincible and The Boys offer a fresh perspective on what it's like to be a god amongst men. Both shows have been wildly successful thus far, and Amazon has established a healthy and likely overlapping viewer base for both shows. But what do people like about these shows really? What part of the gory bloodletting and debauchery and betrayal appeals to the audience? Let's find out. In a world oversaturated with do-good heroes dominated by fan-favorite comic IP, it is refreshing to see what it would be like if those same powers ended up in the wrong hands. Now, a superhero going rogue isn't a novel, never-seen-before trope. A few movies have experimented with superheroes being the worst versions of themselves. In Watchmen, 2009, all the superheroes are a bit on the arsehole side.
What happened to the American dream? What happened to the American dream? It came true. You're looking at it.
Ozymandias, the most sparkling hero, tries to murder millions for a mood shift. Brightburn shows us what happens when kryptonites send a psychopathic child instead of a ball of sunshine like Clark Kent. There are other examples I can think of, but what most of these have in common is that the protagonists are generally well-intentioned and the damage caused is contained. With Invincible and The Boys, it's a lot different, and for different reasons too. Both shows share a lot in common. Both shows are adapted from comic book series and defer heavily to the source material. Both shows, along with their source material, depart from the standards that have been established over nearly a century of comic book lore. Both are important additions to one of the most popular genres of fiction of the last century, but they present a fresh take on superheroes that departs from the clean and wholesome guys saving cats from trees. These superheroes will laser that cat into space. But both shows aren't exactly the same. Invincible isn't a direct parody like The Boys is. Invincible is a subversion of the modern superhero trope. It exposes the lack of realism in the trope, but ultimately still a superhero show. Briefly into the show, our much-loved and omnipotent hero turns into a ruthless mass murderer and starts squashing innocents like bugs. That was a bit of a shocker for everyone, and I'm not sure I've seen a lot of villains kill so easily. The shocking drop into ultra-violence was so raw and obscene in a way that superhero flicks typically do not dare to explore.
Did seeing that man lose his life disturb you? Did it hurt? Well, let's see how you handle this.
Invincible forced superhero fans to look at the genre from a completely different perspective than the one that they've been spoon-fed for so long. However, it still holds on to many traditional elements of the classic superhero tropes. We have our classic spotless and morally uptight hero in Mark Grayson, who the show is ultimately about. The non-Omni-Man heroes of the show are generally well-meaning, and it's an unpredictable, hardcore, and cynical world, but heroes are generally portrayed as forces for good, or at least a useful counterweight for the forces of evil. So, while it does cling to some of the tropes of the genre, it does so in an exaggerated, ultra-violent manner that shows little respect to the traditional superhero path. It's a new flavor for many superhero genre fans. The Boys, on the other hand, is a scathing satire of the entire genre and its tropes. It imagines what superpowered people would actually be in the unjust and morally corrupt world we find ourselves in. The Boys is a window into the perspective of what happens when superheroes, who are as popular as celebrities, as influential as politicians, and as revered as gods, use their powers for anything other than good. Why should a hero save anyone if it's mildly inconvenient? What stops a supe from taking over a small country, or killing a personal rival? How do super steroids, Compound V, affect their powers and psyche? What would be the priorities of people with godlike superhuman qualities? What does it look like when gods let their intrusive thoughts win? The Boys answer all of these in the most R-rated way possible. When I say R-rated, I'm not talking about the Deadpool or Suicide Squad slapstick lewd humor kind of way. I mean real R-rated. Imagine Captain America being high all the time, chasing after old ladies like Soldier Boy, or Superman using his heat vision to make barbecue out of innocent people like Homelander. And then, of course, there's the Deep, who, like Aquaman, loves sea creatures, but a bit too much if you catch my drift.
Homelander is gonna love this.
No, wait, please, stop, no.
And when the show explores the political economy of superheroes, it does so with shrewd, unflinching cynicism. Behind the masks and the capes, these superheroes are drugged up, horny, insecure addicts with super competitive egos, sexist proclivities, and mercenary ambitions, just like real powerful people. By depicting the superheroes as the genetic frauds that they are, The Boys illustrates the truth perfectly. Superpowers don't fix a broken moral compass. Power to do as you please makes you more morally corrupt, not less. Even worse when you're being bankrolled by a hyper-capitalist company with Nazi roots. But not all superpowered evil comes from malice or stark moral corruption. For Omni-Man, it's from a sense of duty. But sometimes it's just ignorance, like running through a person you didn't see while they pop up like a cherry. Or worse, boredom. The Boys implies that even when not inclined to do evil, the simple power to cause suffering at scale is moral corruption. The heroes of this show are the guys that want to kill the supes, and even they are morally questionable. Worse when they get their hands on power, implying that merely being superpowered makes you a villain. Some movies flirt with the idea of immoral superheroes that we can't control, but they hardly commit to it. The Boys shows you what that looks like. Agreed, it may come off a bit overly gritty sometimes, it can rely on a lot of shock value to progress some character development, and it's not always the greatest. But hey, if it works, it works. Invincible and The Boys stand out for intriguing storylines, complex characters, fantastic performances, and the type of drama that I've been missing and craving in modern day television. Invincible features some of the most graphic and intense violence ever seen in animation, making it a unique and unforgettable viewing experience. The Boys and its disturbing tongue-in-cheek humor, nasty visuals, and graphic violence may get old soon, but for now, the audience is loving it. Both shows have a different vibe and are likely moving in opposite directions, so they provide vastly different viewing experiences. But they both emphasize the importance of alternative superhero content. There's been a lot of talk about superhero fatigue, but these shows prove that it's a particular kind of superhero story that people are tired of. The cult following these shows have amassed just shows there's a demand for unconstrained superhero content that breaks away from the Disney formula. I mean, it would be no fun at all if all superhero media had bloodthirsty and decadent heroes, but it's fun to see that path explored. Are you a fan of Invincible or The Boys? Let us know in the comments what you liked about them, and how they compare to your favorite traditional superhero flicks.